You should be getting you should have a message that I am recording this session, and I will email this out to all of you once it downloads to my computer. For the people who just joined us, welcome to our Family University tonight on Social Security Disability Income. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to David Kelly to give us all of the information he has for us. So there you go, David.
Thank you, Patria. Good evening, everybody. Like Patria introduced me, my name is David Kelly. I am a disability. Sorry, Sonia, I'm in work. What do you need? I apologize. My daughter came in. Huh? No, you cannot. Please go help Mama. What you doing? Come on. I'm working. Not right now, Sonia. Oh, my apologies.
No,
That will probably happen again.
We warned everybody it might happen. We all have kids. That's why we're on this call. Okay, yep. Restart, Dave.
So restart. So good evening, everybody. My name is David Kelly. I am the Disability Resource Coordinator for Finger Lakes Works. Tonight's topic is on SSDI or Title II, and it's going to be an overview of the entire system plus the work incentives that go along with it. With our previous presentations, I apologize right off the bat. The information can be dry. There's not a lot of fun pictures I have with it. It's a lot of talking, so I apologize about that. But we'll get started. That first slide I was showing was the change in SSI and SSD rates as of the 2024 turn of the calendar year. The important ones that we're focusing on today is the third line below, which is the non-blind SGA limit of 1550, the blind SGA limit of 250.90, and the TPW, which is trial work period, of $1,110 per month. So this is what will be presented today. I don't want to repeat a lot of information, so I'll just leave it up there for a brief second and we'll get right into the overview. So Title II overview to start. So Title II of the Social Security Act provides benefits for several different types of groups. And these include our retirement benefits, survivor benefits, and disability benefits. Title II retirement and survivor benefits are included on that one. I primarily work with widowers and widowers benefits, and along with CBD, or CDB, which is child disability benefits. And those are listed on the right-hand side. So those are the type of three programs that I work with, but there are other benefits that are covered under Title II as listed. Title II disability programs and the eligibility that comes with it. So to be eligible for the Title II, you must be medically disabled. You have to be younger than the full retirement age of 55, the full retirement age or 55 for certain blind individuals. You either can be not working, or if you are working, you have to be making less than what is called the substantial gain activity, or SGA, which is how I refer to it throughout the slides. Amount, and you have to have what's called an insured status as a worker. And what an insured status for SSDI is a credit-based system that we pay into through our FICA taxes, and one credit can be earned per calendar quarter. And those of you who might not know how quarter works, New York State has 4 of them. January to March is the first quarter, April to June is the second, so on and so forth. But during those quarters, you pay into your FICA taxes and you can earn this credit towards SSDI. The number of credits required for the disability benefits depends on the age and onset of the disability overall. So for before the age of 24, a person generally needs 6 credits during a 3-year period, ending when the disability begins. For age 24 to 30, a person generally needs credits for half the period between age 21 and the onset of the disability. And age 31 or older, a person needs a specific number of credits depending on the age that they become disabled. And if you're unsure if you qualify for these credits, because I don't have them listed or how many you might need, referring to the Social Security's Red Book, the Social Security Administration's Red Book is a good way to find out what those credits might be. And also you can call them and have a conversation with them to see where you might be at and how many you might need based on your age and disability onset. And my slides are there. It is. The next thing we'll talk about is CDB, or Child Disability Benefits. And this is the requirements that a person would have to fall under in order to get CDB. All the following must be true. So 18 years or older, Disabled by SSA's definition before the age of 22, and child of an insured worker who is either disabled, retired, or deceased. In certain cases, may be a dependent of a grandparent or step grandparent. And the POMS listed in there is the direct reference number for the SSA to look at the insured worker status that's talked about in the third line. So if you provide them with that POMS, that's kind of like their Bible. They'll go through it. They'll find exactly what you're talking about, and they should understand the information and be able to give you what you need. The fourth thing on here is you have to be unmarried, but there are a few exceptions to this rule. And to follow that, so if you are marrying, you in order to remain eligible for CDB, you must marry another Title II recipient. So this does not include SSI recipients. This is very specific. You can have been previously married. You can be divorced and then remarried to another Title II recipient if this all happened prior to being eligible for CBD or CDB. Sorry. If you are converting from SSI to CDB, then Medicaid will continue, and special Medicaid continuations for childhood disability beneficiaries. The SSA also uses the term disabled adult child or DAC for this benefit, so they might refer to it as that if you're having a conversation with them. The next one is disabled widowers benefits. This is prescribed period of eligibility, which begins after the age of 50. Month of a spouse's death, including divorce. Last month of entitlement to mother/father's benefits, and last month of previous entitlement to DWB. And it ends, so it will end month before the widower turns 60 and ends end of the 84th month or the 7th year after period began. So you can see where if you get disabled or widowers benefits at the age of 50, it does have a term out of 7 years. But if you get it later on, you can potentially hold the benefit up until a month before you turn 60. If you are already receiving SSI, you keep Medicaid even if you become ineligible for SSI upon DWB's eligibility. Title II work incentives. So all Title II beneficiaries are treated the same when they return to work, or if they when they return to work, or if they plan to start a new career, regardless of the type of benefit that they receive. So this, out of those three, it doesn't matter. You're eligible and treated the same way for this Title II benefit. But work incentives will be applied independently to each benefit received. So what that means is Title II works off of one disability for work incentives, but if you have other qualifying disabilities, they all fall under their own category as well. So the history of the legislation, just some information to throw out there. So Congress wanted to provide opportunities and encourage beneficiaries with disabilities to return to gainful employment. A limited number of beneficiaries return to work and work at levels significant to leave the role once beneficiaries or benefits are awarded. So what that means is that they've showed that a lot of beneficiaries, if they wanted to go back to work and use these work incentives, were making substantial gain activity and were comfortable being ready to be either discharged from benefits or working with a provider to really understand where their line was or what their comfortability was. Legislation and regulatory changes have added work incentives aimed at reducing the risk of returning to work. So what this reduces the risk of is the loss of benefits or loss of Medicare protections. The work incentives help navigate that system a lot more efficiently. The work incentives we'll be talking about: trial work period, extended period of eligibility, extended Medicare, expedited reinstatement, income averaging, unsuccessful work attempt, impairment work-related expense, which we talked about for SSI, but is a little bit different for Title II, subsidies, and special conditions. For the first work incentive, it is the trial work period. This work period begins, it's a 9-month period window within a 60-month rolling period, which is a 5-year period. to test the beneficiary's ability to return to work. Beneficiaries work and are paid and earn above the trial work period level, which is $1,110 of their gross wages per the month in 2024. So what this means is if you work and you make above $1,110.01, it counts as your first trial work period. If you make under that amount, it does not count, and you continue on without counting the 9 months. Beneficiaries are paid during the trial work period, regardless of earnings. This is a very important note, and I have this conversation with a lot of people I work with, that if you're trying work out for the first time, you decide that you wanted to go in full-time employment for the first go around, and they offer you $20 an hour, 40 hours a week, and you're able to perform the job duties, and that's what your pay is. For that 9-month period of your trial work, if you made $8,000, if you made $10,000, you're still going to receive your beneficiary check because of the protection for trial work period. So it gives you the opportunity to learn and to try different employment types out, be it part-time, full-time. It also gives you the ability to work with other service providers to learn more about career pathways and how to really start the ball if you're looking towards a career. During the trial work period, no other work incentives can be applied. So we wouldn't look at EPE, we don't look at EXR, we don't look at any of the other work incentives because trial work period is active. Once those 9 months are completed, then we go into those. So when can the trial work period begin? The first month of a beneficiary's entitlement to a cash payment. So this is as soon as you're rewarded, a trial work period can begin. This is called the entitlement month, and as long as they have a favorable written decision from the SSA, then a TPW can begin or employment can begin off of their discretion. The entitlement month is the month following the 5th month waiting period, and the trial work cannot begin earlier than the date the application was filed. So if you filed January 3rd of 24, after the waiting period, the entitlement, you can start your trial work period dated as far back as 1/3, as long as it's favorable by the SSA.
David, can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
If so you said apply. So just to clarify, because this is all new to me and might be new to some other people on the call. So you said as soon as you apply for the benefit, so that's applying to SSA to get the trial work period approved, correct? Not applying to the job to get a job. Just to
Yeah.
clarify.
So if the trial work period is just the work incentive to try out work, obviously a person who has Title II benefits might not be looking for employment, but might be curious of what might occur with their benefit changes, what work incentives can help them with their education and furthering those things. So it's open for flexibility. If a beneficiary knows that they're going to get Title II benefits, and they want to work right away, then they work at the entitlement date. So they can start as soon as they're entitled the benefits through the SSA administration. And sometimes that does take, as a lot of us on the call know, 6 months to 18 months, sometimes 2 years. It just depends on the rate that they can get through the medical review and all the information.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you clarified because I thought I stumbled a little bit. So continuing on. So when does the trial work period end? So this will end when an individual has reached 9 trial work period months in a 60-month window. So these 9 months do not need to be consecutive. So you can make 1 trial work period in over 3 years. You only make 1, and then the last in 4 and 5, you finish out the rest. Then it's done. If you don't finish 9 months TPW in a 5-year period, then it gets a kind of a rolling restart where you get to try again. But it is, as soon as you started, it is out of a 60-month window, which is 5-year period. And it only has 9 months of protection. To begin, or for a trial work period, it's always suggested in best practice to work with a benefits advisor to begin charting through one of our charting systems that we use. I did not, unfortunately. I will get it out to portray it tonight, but it might look like a hot mess because I was modifying it and didn't get it done, so I apologize. But it is a chart that will allow you to track your trial work period months, your earnings, and when not you're getting a check, so you're always on top of it. And our work incentive practitioners do help families learn that, or individuals learn that as they need it. So trial work period and self-employment. So self-employed individuals use a trial work period month when a net earning is a month in a month are above the trial work level. So if you bring home that net earning for your local business above $1,110, then your trial work period for self-employment would be counted. Or you can engage in the business activities for at least 80 hours in a month, or startup business activities do not count towards the trial work period. So if you're starting a business and it hasn't been fully running, the startup activities will not count towards the trial work period hour count. But if you engage after your business is active and you engage in any activity for at least 80 hours in a month, then a trial work period would be counted if you're not hitting the net earnings. The next work incentive after we're out of trial work period is called extended period of eligibility, or EPE. The EPE starts the month after the trial work period ends and continues for the next 36 months, regardless of whether or not work continues or not. So once your trial work period ends, an EPE begins, and it only runs for 36 months. There are a lot of things that happen during the EPE phase, though. So during the EPE, for any month when a beneficiary's countable earned income is above the SGA level, and I'm sorry I didn't change that, but in 2024 it is 1550 for a non-blind and 2590 for a blind individual. If you make below 1550 as a non-blind individual, then you will receive your SSDI check. If you make 1550.01, that check actually gets turned off. The first time after the trial work period, with earnings above the SGA level, the SSA will cease benefits. It is very important to note that this is the termination, or this is the terminology they use. This is called a cessation month. This is not termination, and a lot of people during this time period can get very scared with the terminology used. Cessation just means that they're going to turn it off and they're going to see what happens. But the beneficiary will receive a check for that month that the cease of benefits is noted, and then the next 2 months following that as a grace period. And it's kind of the SSA saying, hey, we noted that you've made strides towards your SGA level. We're going to cease your benefits as of this date, but we're also going to pay you for the next 2 months, just in case you backslide, or just in case you might need the additional assistance. These months must come as a package. So you should get the 2 grace period months in one payment. The SSA should do a work activity review criteria in month 7 of the trial work period. This will help prepare you for the extended period of eligibility. And the result of the review affects the benefits we'll see. So SGA, if the work activity review indicates the ability to perform SGA, then the beneficiary will receive a check in the first month of EPE, and in the following next 2 months after the benefits will cease. So that's that first. If you make above SGA level, you'll get that check in the first month, and you'll get the next 2 ones, but the benefits will cease after that last check. If you're not making SGA, if their work activity indicator is no ability to perform SGA payments, payments will continue until the first month of SGA activity, and this month will be paid, as will the next 2. This is the 3-month grace period, and after that, SGA will cease. What is countable income during my picture's in the way, so I can't see what that is. Or during EPE. So Social Security Administration counts only earnings that represent the individual's work effort or productivity. So things like sick time and vacation times are not counted during Title II beneficiaries or this work incentives, because you earned them. So you're not being productive when you take sick time. Your business shouldn't be requiring you to do work when you call in sick. Same thing when you call on a vacation. So these are not counted towards the SGA level. Bonuses and incentive pays counted unless evidence shows it is not related to productivity. Earnings in a cafe, cafeteria, or a flex spending plan added to gross earnings before SGA is determined. More about countable income. Countable income equals the portion of income that remains after work incentives are implied. And several work incentives impact the countable income in SGA decisions. This will include income averaging, unsuccessful work attempts, impairment work-related expenses, subsidies, and or special conditions that one may or may not have. The first one, income averaging. So income may be averaged to reduce countable income to below the SGA level. You use income averaging if all of the following are true. There's a pattern of work which is continuous. So if you work 20 hours a week consistently for over a year period of time, chances are you can use the averaging. No significant change in work patterns or earnings. So you have an increase or decrease any significant hours. No change in SGA earning levels during the period involved. So you didn't fluctuate, you didn't go up or down. You kind of just stay there. Primarily used to adjust the sensation month or to better assess it and to push it out if needed. May not be used after the sensation month to determine payment months during EPE. So after you hit your sensation months, you should no longer use averaging to determine your payments for the next months. The next one, which is called unsuccessful work attempt. So an unsuccessful work attempt is an effort to do substantial work in employment or self-employment fields that is discontinued or reduced to below SGA level after a short time frame. This is no more than a 6-month time frame and this will ultimately because of the individual's impairment or the removal of a special condition related to impairment that is essential to continue performance at work. So if an individual loses their subsidy or special condition from an employer and they're unable to work anymore, and this was in a 6-month time frame of being hired, the unsuccessful work attempt can go in and it pretty much wipes that slate clean and we start over with trial work period and we make sure that things are still really functioning. There's a PALMS in there as well for this one for the SSA. So if you were talking to them, you weren't sure, or you needed additional information about successful work attempt, you could read them that PALM line there and they should be able to pull it up and give you any support or any other information that they can provide at that time. So what is a special condition? Special conditions are situations especially arranged to accommodate a worker's disability or an unusual job opportunity, such as in a sheltered workshop. So an example of this, the employee required and received special assistance from other employees in performing the job. The employee was allowed to work irregular hours or take frequent rest periods. And the employee was provided with special equipment or was assigned work suited to, or a workstation that was suitable to the impairment or piece of technology or whatever they may need. Why did that sneak in there? I think that's out of place there, but that's a special condition. You are unsuccessful work attempt criteria. So a significant break in continuality of work, either not working or working below SGA levels at least 30 days. Break is caused by the disability or removal of special conditions. And the SGA level work lasting more than 6 months is not an unsuccessful work attempt. So if you're working above SGA lasting more than 6 months, and then you might have your disability might cause you to reduce hours or to take some time off, we cannot use unsuccessful work attempt after month 6. So using the unsuccessful work attempt, if there is a UA or UWA, it can be used to determine whether the cessation month or grace period have been used or stick. UA also applies to initial application for disability benefits and in CDR cases, which is conditional medical review cases, in determining whether because of work activities, disabilities exist, continues, or ceases. Unsuccessful work attempt criteria are not used during the trial work period. and criteria aren't used in determining whether payments should be made for a particular EPE month after the cessation. Here's a law and policy tips. So there is no limit to the number of times an unsuccessful work attempt may be applied to a person's benefits. So as so long as there is no cessation or that grace period hasn't been enacted and the UWA criteria is met. The beneficiary must be out of work or have earnings reduced to below the SGA limit level for at least 30 days or be forced to change to a different type of employment or work. Again, UWA applies only to the cessation month and to see if it sticks or not. So this is all during the EPE style or EPE phase. So later on in the EPE phase, we're receiving Title II benefits after cessation. So after cessation begins, a beneficiary's countable earnings fall below the SGA limit in any EPE month. The beneficiary will be entitled to the Title II benefits that they should receive in that month. And when we talk about this, I use the analogy of a faucet. It should be able to work as simple as on, off, on, off. So you make SGA limit in January, then it goes off for 3 months. After that, you report that you, because of your disability, you went under SGA limits. The faucet should come back on, and your benefits should be reenacted to help you, recover and to get back to work to what you need. Medicare during the EPE phase. So Medicare eligibility is not impacted during EPE. However, if no cash benefit is paid, the beneficiary will be billed for that premium, and premiums will vary for those enrolled before 2017. And for 2023, the premium it was $164.90, unless the person is very high income. So a good another standing with Medicare and Medicaid for this one is if you apply for SSDI benefits, it typically has a 48-month window where you're going to be waiting for things like Medicare and Medicaid. Once you have them and you're working with your work incentives to go back to employment, you are under a protection plan with Medicare. So as long as you're receiving a check from your SSDI check, you're always protected, or you always should have Medicare. Even if during the EPE you have it turned off during cessation months, you still should have Medicare. If they use the term termination, then Medicare goes into another protection plan that we talked about during the SSI sessions, where you will be able to pay the premium to keep your Medicare or Medicaid. Moving on, so cessation, termination, and grace period. So benefits cannot be terminated during the EPE, only ceased. Benefits will be terminated the first time the beneficiary performs SGA levels after the EPE has ended, which is a 36-month window, so 3-year time frame. So at the end of those 3 years, you come into your 37th month, and that month you make above the SGA limit, and obviously they increase and decrease as years go. So next year it could be more, it could be less, but if you hit over whatever the limit is at that time, then you get a termination letter and your benefits are terminated at that point. But we don't need to panic because there is another work incentive that protects us and allows us to reinstate our benefits as well. So as a result, the grace period may fall during or after the EPE, depending upon when the first month of SGA occurs. So at the end of 37 months, we'll say that we made SGA level. You're going to get your grace period. You're going to get cessation, grace period, termination. So when are benefits terminated? So if countable earnings are above the SGA level after 36 months have passed, i.e. month 34 as an example, Title II cash benefits will be terminated if the grace period has already been used. If the grace period hasn't been used, the T month, which is termination, and the C month are the exact same. EPE summary. So this is just a snapshot of everything we just talked about. During the EPE, the issue is whether the beneficiary is engaging in SGA levels or not. The SGA levels for 2024, $1,550 for a non-blind individual, $2,590 for blind beneficiaries. Just because the beneficiary's gross earnings are above the SGA level does not mean they are performing SGA, because there are a lot of things that could take that cost down. They should work with a work incentives practitioner if they believe that they have, work related expenses, that they need subsidies or special conditions, or that they are averaging. It's not impossible to do it on our own. We just always suggest seeking, professional help if needed. Work incentives may be applied to determine if the countable income is above SGA. And procedure tips: to avoid over and underpayments, beneficiaries must report monthly earnings. Um, we, as an agency, we practice that even during the trial work period, by the 10th of every month, you should report out any earnings to the SSA administration. I have had individuals come back to me and tell me, hey, during my trial work period, the SSA told me I didn't have to report that. That's cool, and that they did that, but we would rather you report it, so that way there is no issues of overpayments or underpayments, and you can make sure that everything is aligned. Always request a receipt from the SSA. So if you're on the phone, that's more difficult to do. If you go in person, obviously you can get a handwritten receipt, or you can get one of their functional receipts. I always suggest to people I work with to fax. Fax is an undeniable receipt that it was sent to that agency, to that number, the day of, and I use it quite oftenly. Always keep copies of everything you send and everything that you have related to your employment, to your benefits, so that way if they come back with an overpayment, we can always look at your documents, compare their documents, and see if a mistake was made. And learn to organize correspondence from other agencies. So you might have several other agencies who are trying to assist you with several other things. It's always good to organize communications between these agencies to make sure that the needs are being met, and to make sure that everything is functioning. Our next topic is impairment related work expense, or an IRWE. So for an IRWE, for Title II, this is a deducted from gross earnings and reduces countable income below the SGA level, and an expense for an item or service that enables the beneficiary to work is necessary due to a physical or mental impairment, and is paid by the beneficiary. This must be paid during a month of work activity, and costs must be reasonable. And this does have to be approved by the SSA. And if it is something where you are looking to, you need assistance with impairment work related expenses, please reach out to a work incentive practitioner, because we do have the forms and the request line for early IRWE's policy and procedures. Certain items or services may be approved as IRWE's, even though they are also needed for non-work activities, such as prescription medications or other health-related services. Service animals, the impairment must be of record, and reported additional impairments to SSA. And this is another palm that you can write down, that you could send to the SSA if you're talking to them, so that way they can pull up the procedure and policy, and they can read back the information that you might need. Some examples of IRWE's deductions: so supported employment services, attendant care, transportation, medical equipment or devices, work-related equipment and assistance, service animals, residential modifications, routine drugs and medical services, and non-medical applicants and devices, appliances and devices, services received through community-based residential programming. A little bit more about IRWEs, because we don't talk this topic to death. So IRWEs can be used as any time earnings are above SGA after the trial work periods. Reoccurring expenses, so monthly or non-monthly, may be deducted entirely in the month that the payment is made, or prorated over the month in the payment period. And a one-time expense may be prorated over a course of 12 months, and rental expenses. So for the prorated version, a good example of that is if you work from home and your internet is needed for work, you can have your internet rate, as long as it doesn't change, prorated over a 12-month period of time, and that counts as an IRWE. As long as it's disability related and it applies for you to go to work, we typically can write it, and we typically can use it to benefit the beneficiary. Subsidies and special conditions overviews. So SSA uses earnings that represent the real value of work performed when comparing the countable income to the SGA level. If the beneficiary is paid more than the value of the work, a subsidy or special condition may be in place. If the beneficiary has fewer duties than others doing the same amount of work, a subsidy or special condition may also be in place. And the SSA will accept a letter from the employer documenting any subsidies or special conditions. So, what circumstances suggest a subsidy or a special condition? So, sheltered employment, mental impairment or disability started in childhood or adolescence, discrepancies between the amount of pay and value of services, unusual help from others, government sponsored training and employment. To decide if a subsidy or special condition applies, SSA needs the following information. So, how are the earnings are computed? What is the typical hourly rate for that job? Is the pay reduced proportionally when the beneficiary is absent? And does the beneficiary receive unusual assistance or supervision? More about subsidies. So the employer provides support such as this might include extra supervision, a lower productivity compared to unimpaired workers, allowing extra break times or flexibility in a schedule, or removing some job tasks in order to still be employed or make the employment more reasonable. Employer subsidies are specific or non-specific, so any exact dollar value is placed on the subsidy. A percentage of salary time is placed on the subsidy, and the SSA usually accepts a letter from the employer that documents the subsidy or the agreement. It is important to note in the upper right that a subsidy is a cost to the employer. It's not a cost to the employee. It is something that the employer is agreeing to assist the individual to work there. This could be simple as providing lunch or providing additional flexible hours, so additional breaks to take time and relax and to really center oneself. And it might take productivity a little bit less. Instead of working 8 hours, you might only be working 6.5 because of your extra breaks in times. As long as it's agreeable between the employer and themselves and they send a letter to the SSA, this could be a subsidy.
David, can
Yes.
I pause you for just a second? There was a
Yeah.
question in the chat that I missed for a few seconds. Someone asked, what is a rental expense? I think it was 2 screens ago. You had a little notation about rental expense. Oh, wait.
Did I pass it? I know what you're talking about. I know
Right there. Oh,
was for the Irving, right? No.
right there. Rental
Yeah.
expenses. What more about?
So this would occur typically if you had to rent an office building out specifically to do work, or you had to rent a space from another provider in order to do work. You might be able, I've never heard of it, but we might be expense related if you are working from home and you do have things like you are a renter or those kind of things. You might be able to put in that, but it's very disability and work specific. So if you're not working from home and you're trying to put it in, chances are it's going to be rejected. But I've never done one on those levels, just to be honest. So I would probably point you to another work incentive practitioner who might have the experience for that one.
Thank you for clarifying.
Absolutely. But I know it does apply to office buildings, so that one I do know. And now I don't know where I was. We did that. We did that.
This one.
We're on this one?
Yep.
Okay, so more about special conditions. Typically, a special condition is an item or a type of support from someone other than the employer or employee, such as a VR or vocational rehab or a goodwill individual. One example is an on-the-job assistance, an i.e. is a job coach. They're either paid by the employer or a third party who performs part of all the person's job requirements or job duties. The value of the job coach special conditions is deducted from the gross wages, and the SSA does not use the job coach's salary or hourly rate. The SSA instead multiplies the number of hours of the job coaching by the beneficiary's hourly rate, and that's what they use to determine the special condition value. Why did that not? Here's a subsidies versus special conditions slide. So what SSA determines whether to deduct a dollar amount from gross earnings. The only difference between a subsidy and a special condition is the method of valuation. The valuation method is determined by who is paying for the service, the employer or a third party. A special condition example, so if a beneficiary works 30 hours a week and earns $9 an hour, but has a job coach with him for 10 hours every week, the value of the job coach's special conditions is approximately $390. And we can see that by 10 hours by $9 an hour, $90 by 4 3 weeks in a month, brings it out to $389.70. So please note, a special condition is a cost to a third party. It is not a cost to the employer. These slides are winded. The next work incentive that we're going to talk about is the expedited reinstatement. This is the work incentive that allows us to regain or possibly put in for our benefits to be turned back on if we lose the SGA level in a certain amount of time. So a provision in the Ticket to Work and Work Incentive Improvement Act, this is where EXR came in. So prior to 2001, if a beneficiary was no longer earning above the SGA level, after having been terminated due to their income, a new application was required. Effective of 01, a new applicant isn't needed if certain criteria is being met. So this does apply to both SSI and Title II beneficiaries. So EXR works for both of those benefit types. So you would not be performing SGA in the application month. You're unable to work at the SGA level, not necessarily caused by the impairment, but maybe something happened. You stop performing SGA within 60 months of prior termination, and having a current medical impairment that is the same or related to the original, and continue to be disabled based on the medical improvement standards. So that is all the criteria that is needed for EXR. Most of the time, if you have Title II benefits, the bottom two or bottom three typically already are active. The real big thing that we look at for EXR is if you do work for 55 months after your termination notice, then you only have 5 months to really put in for that EXR if you lose employment or go below that SGA level. So again, you have 5 years after that termination letter comes in to use this work incentive to have your benefits revisited without having to put in a whole new application. The EXR period begins with the month of termination of benefits and runs for 60 consecutive months as stated. So this is another 5-year work incentive protection. Initial reinstatement period, so an IRP, I'm never going to call it that again just because I'll never get it off my tongue, begins with a beneficiary is reinstated, either with provisional benefits pending the EXR decision or after the EXR. So this will be if you put in for the EXR initially for the reinstatement of your benefits, the IRP or the initial reinstatement period begins when it's reinstated. So during this period, the beneficiary's earnings are treated as if they are in the EPE phase. So monthly countable earnings above SGA means no Title II benefits for that month, and monthly countable earnings below SGA means that you should get your check that way. Once the beneficiary gets 24 monthly Title II checks during this, is not necessarily continuous, the beneficiary is entitled to a new trial work period, EPE, and grace period. So if you end up going EXR and you get your initial reinstatement phase, and then they keep you and they reinstate your benefits, after 24 months of reinstated benefits, you get another chance and another trial work period, EPE, and grace period. EXR versus new application. So this is the benefits, obviously. So EXR is provisional benefits. This begins with the IRP stage. New trial work period, EPE, begins after 24-month cash payment during the IRP. Disability requirements, same or substantially related. Payments are same as those before SGA began, and healthcare may be reinstated as soon as the cash benefit is reinstated. If not, if you had to go through the new one, so a new application would allow you to get a new trial work period, and EPE begins immediately upon approval of disability and benefit status. Disability requirements, disabling impairment according to the standard definition, potentially a different benefit payment, and healthcare reinstatement when new eligibility is established, which is that 24 to 48 month window. So you have your choice of going EXR or the new applicant or the new application. But it is to be aware that if you've already had your application under one disability and you reapply for that, you probably should go for EXR. A new application would tend to lead towards a new disability or a new relation towards your current disability of a worsening condition. Continuing on, more about EXRs versus new applications. The applicant can decide to file a new application rather than an EXR application. If you choose that route, there are no provisional benefits that are paid with a new applicant. However, it is possible that the monthly benefit level could be higher than the previous. SSA is responsible for providing the information necessary to assist the applicant with this decision. EXR benefits. So for those, if a beneficiary is eligible for EXR, their benefits will be reinstated. Also, if any, there are dependent auxiliary, their benefits may be reinstated. So this is child death benefits, widowers benefits. Those should be reinstated off this as well. But the auxiliaries must file a new applicant to determine eligibility. Up to 6 months of provisional benefits are paid while an EXR request is pending. If a beneficiary is denied EXR, they do not have to repay those provisional benefits that they were awarded. EXR decisions, so the SSA will continue or conduct a medical review to determine if there is any medical improvement. So this is no different than medical reviews that happen every 3, 5, or 7 years based off of your disability, whatever the SSA determined. So they will just do another one of those to determine if there was any medical improvement with the disability. Obviously, if there's not, then they'll reinstate the benefits. If SSA does not decide within 6 months, the provisional benefits will stop. However, you should contact a benefits coordinator or an AWIC for further assistance. The beneficiary may be eligible for emergency payments. An AWIC, just for your aware, is there's a WIC and there's an AWIC. A WIC is a lower level of SSA where they'll give you more information, and AWIC is kind of like their boss, where they oversee an entire district in multiple offices. Title II and EXR, a summary overview. So a new period of disability with a new onset date. Payments are made prudent to EXR are called the initial reinstatement period until the beneficiary receives cash payments for 24 months. The cash benefits are paid only if SGA levels are not met. An IRWI and subsidy apply during the IRP, but income averaging and UWA do not. So this is because the cessation month has already stuck. And when 24 EXR payments are received, a new trial work, EPE, EPMC, and EXR period is granted. So how do we go about requesting an EXR? So we can request one by contacting the local SSA office and request for reinstatement. The local offices should explain the basic provisions and the options of filing a new application. The pros and cons of either option should be fully discussed and thought about. There is a PALM section provided here at the end of this one, which will provide more details on information the local office is required to provide to an individual requesting EXR. So if you believe that they're not providing you the correct or just not all the information, you can hit them with this PALM. Maybe they're a new a trainee, they don't know it yet. Hit him with this PALM. He looks it up and he's like, "Oh, you know what? You're right," or she says you're right, and then you move forward from there. Why is EXR so important? Many individuals struggle to qualify for benefits as it is. Fear of losing connection to the system is very real. So you might have had benefits for a long period of time, or it might have taken you a long period of time to get them approved, and to go through that application again might be wearing. So EXR is important because it helps us to move a lot faster in reinstatement or making those decisions. EXR protects the working individual who was terminated from benefits due to work. It allows that person to re-access the system quickly and be provided with provisional cash and health benefits while eligibility is being determined by the SSA. I saw there was a question. Once receiving benefits, are you assigned a coordinator to understand all this? You are not. You are not. Typically, for people who go through the process to get benefits, I always suggest if you can find legal counsel, it's the best way to go. There are few and far in between, but they do exist of service providers who do coordinate and can help you with the application process. But my job in recent years has taken on the role to assist individuals in understanding all this information and to help them track it and to really understand it, Christina. And if it's something where you're looking for more information, I'll give you my contact information at the end, sending me an email or calling me. We can get an appointment set up and I can go through it all again in person, probably at a slower rate because my heart rate's not through the roof because I'm presenting to people.
And I will also send out your contact information in an email with the recording. So, oh, wait, there it goes. It
Well,
just
look
popped
at that.
up.
I thought I had more slides, but
Yeah. No, but I will also send it out with your contact information. I'll remove your spotlight for a second
Yep.
so you can see me. There you go. Because I don't think you could see me when I was talking before. It's like the voice of God coming in.
I know. It's just like you're looking around, like, where'd it go?
Yeah. So Christina, we will definitely send that out. And I actually had another person who had to leave the call, and I said I would provide your contact information as well because they had a bunch of questions, and I was like, talk to David. So
Absolutely. And I am not that because we did introduce it the first time we did our first session, but I do work out of 4 counties. So I work out of Ontario, I work out of Wayne County, Seneca County, and Yates County. I have fellow DRCs who work out of Monroe County and who works out of Ithaca or Tompkins County. I always want to call it Ithaca County, but Tompkins County. They are the other two who are the closest to me. There is one in Oswego too, but she's in a different kind of district umbrella.
okay. So is this the time, if anybody has any questions, feel free to either put them in the chat or unmute yourself. And we will take your questions and try to answer them. And like I said, I will send this recording out along with David's contact information. So I open it up to the attendees. And thank you, David, for all of that information. I had to rewatch this like 4 times.
I'll ask a question. Is it affect or effect? I went back and forth with this forever.
Wait. Effect is what
Is it effect?
I don't know.
Or should there be an E there? I went back and forth with that for like ever.
No problem, Mark. Thanks for joining us. If you have questions, you can stay on and ask. If not, have a great evening. So thank you for joining us. And like I said, I think I've said this 4 times. I will send it out. So, because like I said, yeah, go ahead.
This is April.
Hi, April.
I think that this was beyond where we are in the process of trying to find benefits and or employment for Tyler. Is David, are you the person that we should get in contact with to start this process with Tyler?
Yes.
We've been trying to find him a job. He's been working with an agency, not successful in getting any employment. So we don't know if he can work because he's never tried it.
Okay.
Um, I guess we just don't know where to go from here.
Yeah, I would definitely reach out to me, be it tomorrow or later in the week. We can get an appointment set up and we can go through all those hoops that you might have questions for. I can pull an employment counselor in if we need to. So there's a lot of things that we can start in the initial process.
And David, that was one of the questions that as I was listening in April, this might help you. You know, we've done 2 sessions on SSI.
Mhm.
Do you have to qualify for SSI first before you qualify for SSDI?
So no. Well, so no, you don't. And the reason you don't is because we all pay FICA taxes when we work. So somebody like myself or you um have been paying, we pay FICA taxes as we go. So every time we get a paycheck, we're paying a FICA tax. As long as you hit that kind of threshold limit, which I believe was like 1,600 or something out of that first quarter, then it becomes, you have kind of like this token or, whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it, that is your countable credit. And there are different credit levels for different ages. Obviously, if you're a person who has SSI and you've never worked, your credits are going to be a lot higher. They're going to be 6. And that's just because you've never had the opportunity to work and to pay those taxes. Once you do hit that, I have seen the transition. It can be rough because there's a duality to it where you're actually at one point pulling from both systems. And it gets a little haywire, but it is manageable. And it's not to deter people away. There are a lot of others out there who know this information and are always willing to help with questions about those things.
Yeah, and so April, the reason I asked that is because I know Tyler hasn't worked, right? So determining which benefit would be best for him. So just sharing that. So and
Yeah,
I know
that's
that
kind of where we're at
oh,
the beginning stages here, trying to figure out what we do, what's next.
yeah. So I think making that appointment with David might be a good idea. And I know, Christina, you said, how do you apply? And maybe I need an appointment too. How do you apply for Social Security disability or income or Social Security income if you have never applied before, David? Make an appointment with you and you can go over both.
So for my typical involvement, I do not do applications. I
Oh, that's
apologize.
right.
That was something that we transitioned out of very quick because it was very time consuming. It does take a considerable amount of time. And they didn't want to bog us down with the application. Um, Typically there, you can go there and you can go to the SSA and say, hey, I believe that I might qualify for benefits. They'll give you, the ring of information of what they're going to require, what the application looks like. It does take a significant amount of time. So once your paperwork is filed, it could take anywhere between 6 and 18 months for a letter to come in telling you you're either denied or approved. If you get denied, you can do an appeal. So where should you go in Wayne County? Geneva is the only SSA office out of our 4 county area. So Geneva's SS or Social Security Administration on 14A on their main street there in 14A is kind of
Yeah,
like on a side road.
yep, it's by the post office and my dog's barking. I apologize. Um, Uh, yeah, it's on like a little side road in Geneva. It's the closest one. Now, if I'm trying to think for Christina though, can you go to Monroe County or do you have to stay in our 4 county region?
No, but if she's closer to Monroe County, she can go up to the Social Security Administration out of Monroe County. It's whatever is more convenient to you is what you should utilize. Never go the extra 60 miles because you don't know, you don't know if your office is accepting it. Most of them are. If you're closer to Monroe, it's perfectly okay if you live in Wayne County to go to Monroe. But come back to me for services. Don't go to Monroe if you if you do that.
Any other questions? So if they came back to you for services, what does that mean, David? I'm just gonna ask that.
So
Like,
there
what?
are there are a bunch of things that we offer. Um, for instance, our employment counselors will go over work history with you. They'll make a resume. They can do mock interview skills. They can help you access trainings to step into promotional positions or starting out learning, what you might need for those kind of things. We have the ticket to work system involved in our thing too. So if it's something where you have a disability, you're interested in utilizing ticket to work as an under an employment network, you can always apply your ticket to us. And I always encourage others to look at employment networks. It might seem like a minor decision, but it can take some time for those tickets to be changed around to other ENs. For my services, you get the benefits analysis, which is a 6-page document, a breakdown of every service, between SNAP, SSI, Section 8. If you have that, I give you a breakdown of all those and how they can change with a job rate that you're looking for. I also have a network of employers who hire people with disabilities. So connecting with employers, giving you the ability to step in, knowing that we've had conversations and that they are very approachable for people with disabilities is another thing. Are the job coaches available? Are there places an individual to be placed as a trial so they can get their foot in the door? I'm working on several different things like that where people with disabilities can try almost like an internship or an 8-hour shift. We're working on those. We don't have them in place yet. Job coaches, typically the ARCs, the ARC Ontario, the ARC Wayne, Mosaic. You can inquire with them. FLACRA.
I was going to say, can you also get them through Access VR?
Yeah, I believe you can get them through Access VR. Might put you to somebody else, so they might
Yeah,
put you with one of
they
the ARCs,
might.
I think. But Access VR is a good jumping off point if you have that question for them. And FLACRA Connections has job coaches as well, but I think they only have them in Yates County.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they may be expanding soon, but right now I think they are only in Yates County.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, David. And what you're going over is all of the offerings that Finger Lakes Works offers. The employment counselor, the ticket to work out, or the employment counselor and things like that. It is different than Access VR. Access VR is a different agency that then contracts with other people and does similar things but different things. So it is a little confusing because there's a lot of us that kind of dabble in all of the same arenas and provide different services to support students and adults with disabilities. Now you did quickly mention Ticket to Work. I want to share that we are hang on, April, I'm going to answer the question. We are going to be doing a presentation on that on March 14th, correct?
Yes, we're doing Ticket to Work, able accounts, overpayments, and another review of the Medicare protection.
Yeah, so if you guys want to join us for that. Now, April, I see your question about Access. How can we get Access VR instead? It is an application process. And that, David, I don't know if you help with that application, but I definitely help with that application. So either one of us, yeah, either one of us can do that application with you and get you connected. They are specifically focused on employment. And I am one of their vendors. So full disclosure, you might get assigned to me to work with your son if they choose to. It's completely up to them. So I always like to be full disclosure that I may cross your path in that process. So but either one of us
they
can
also assist with learning about your disability too, and going to work and how that, what the job requirements might do to the individual and things like that. So they are a very good agency in that, in the education standings for them. They do good work.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, they do a lot of job exploration, self-advocacy, all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that makes sense, April. We're just, chit-chatting now, but absolutely either one of us can help you with that application. And I think I saw a thank you. Of course, that's what we're here for, is every piece of education that we can provide. So
yeah, we love it.
yeah. Well, and there's a few people on this call that I do know, and so they know that if you start this joint journey with me, I'll explore anything. right? What can we learn today? So,
Yeah.
and I think we're
Oh,
always learning.
yeah.
So,
And there's another service that I didn't even mention. We do have a service which is called Integrated Resource Teams. If anybody on the call has ever been involved with a SPOA meeting,
oh, yep.
it's kind of like a SPOA meeting. But I run it and it's not mental health driven, it's employment driven. So we focus on the removal of barriers and how service providers can cost share to reduce barriers for individuals to go to employment.
That's awesome. Is
It's
that new?
that if it rolled out with our positions, it's intense. And it was a huge learning curve, but we do those as well.
That's
As a
awesome.
DRC, I'm not allowed to call them, so I can't call them on behalf of people. They have to have a job or an employment counselor or employment specified reach out to me and say, "Hey, this might be needed," and then
Okay.
there's a bunch.
Cool. Okay. So that might be also a helpful option for anybody on the call, right? Maybe if your child or yourself are struggling with figuring out what's the best employment option and what resources should you have. That's what it sounds like, David. So you
Yep.
kind of bring everybody around the table and make sure you're all on the same page. Because I will tell you that is very, very needed as a person who's just one piece of the puzzle. There's a lot of times when I'm like, wait a minute, who else is connected to this student? And are we all talking? And 9 times out of 10, we're not.
Yep. And
So,
and we use natural supports too so if a student comes in with mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, cousins, as long as they're a support and they have, and they can assist, and even it can be minute, it can be just as simple as giving him a call in the morning or her in the morning just to
mhm,
wake him up.
mhm,
It's that simple, but it's that expression, kids get raised by a village, they don't get raised by an individual
mhm,
person. It takes a village to raise a child. That's what it is,
mhm.
isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. And I like that you include natural supports because one of the complaints I often get from parents is as their child's move into adulthood, they get cut off, right?
Yeah.
So they still, parents or cousins, or like you said, aunts, uncles, whoever it is, still want to be a support to that person to be successful. And some agencies are like, nope, they're 18. I only talk to them, right? And so I like that you include everybody in that. So awesome. Any other questions? As you can tell, David and I will just keep talking. So hopefully it's helpful to those who are listening to our conversation. So if there's no other questions, I am going to stop the recording and thank all of you for joining us this evening. So please join us for future workshops. If you're not on my listserv, shoot me an email once I send out this recording and I will add you and you can learn about all of the fun workshops that we offer at Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES, either for your individual student or for families. Well, thank you.